Hey 876 gang, welcome back to my channel. And as you guys already saw on the title of this video, I'll be covering lifting in this video. This client, she's wearing this set for 1 month, and today she came in for a fill, and I decided that I wanted to share my tips and some of the things that I do and what I notice with lifting and where I feel like you guys are going wrong. So let's just jump right into the video. So when my clients come in for a fill, the first thing I do is remove the polish or the top coat, anything that's on top of the nail. This will expose only the acrylic. Then after that, I usually go in and look for any lifting. Guys, when you're doing a fill, you always want to make sure you remove any sign of lifting before you apply acrylic to the nail. So this is usually the perfect time to remove any sign of lifting. Also, lifting doesn't always necessarily mean that the nail is popping up or you can see underneath. It doesn't have to be that big. If you see something looking like that little white spot around the nail, basically the nail is not fully connected. So most of the time when some parts of the nail is lifting, you will see like a little hollow white spot there. You have to make sure that you remove that, and you will see the difference between the lifted area and the part that is completely connected and can stay. On this set, I didn't have anything that's lifting that I could show you guys as an example, but I'm sure you saw this before that I'm talking about. So you always want to make sure you remove any sign of lifting, because sometimes if water gets trapped under the nail and then you come in with new acrylic and fill the nail, this means that your client will be wearing this for another month. So you always want to make sure that you are remove lifting, that way your client's nails remain healthy. After I go in and I remove the polish and any sign of lifting, then I'm going to come in with my nail prep. So with nail lifting, we're going to be covering 3 areas. We're going to cover nail prep, we're going to cover acrylic application, and then we're going to cover cuticle sealing. These are the 3 main problems that contributes to lifting, 3 main areas. So for nail prep, I'm going to come in with my cuticle bit. You want to use your cuticle bit and go in the side walls and around the cuticle area. This will help you to get extremely close to the cuticles and remove all that extra protein growth. To be honest, I do not always use this cuticle bit. Sometimes I go straight in and I use my sanding band. It all depends on the client's nails. Some clients I have to use it because the sanding band is just not enough and they have all this excess protein growth on their nails that I have to remove. If you leave this on your client's nail, the acrylic is not going to adhere properly to the nail. So you always want to make sure you remove all this protein growth from the nail. So for example, when you place your acrylic down, if you did not remove this protein growth, the acrylic doesn't adhere to the nail. It adheres to what's on top of the nail. So that is why it is important for you to remove all this before you apply your acrylic. So after I use my cuticle bit, I'm going to come in with this 150 sanding band, and I usually prep at around 5 or 6,000 RPM. I never go over like to 10 or 8. I usually stay between 5 and 6. That works for me. I'm going to go from the right to the left and making sure, again, focusing on the side walls and the cuticles. This is where the lifting starts. So this is where you want to make sure you focus most of your attention when you are prepping the nail. Get all in those corners, get out all that stuff. And mind you, when you're doing this doesn't mean that you have to put a lot of pressure on your client's natural nail and damaging the nail. You're going to do this very light. As long as your sanding band is new, it will get the job done. Sometimes the sanding band is not working properly because you used it 5, 6, 7, 8 times. and it's already worn out, or the grit of the sanding band is too soft, so it's not getting the job done. So you always want to make sure that your sanding band is working properly. Don't just be there saying you're doing the prep and you're not really prepping. This is how I want your nails to look moving forward. Nice and clean on the nail plate before you lay any form of acrylic. After that, I usually come in and I nip all the excess cuticles. I do not usually go deep with this. I usually just go ahead and remove anything that's hanging and come in the way of my cuticle bead, because sometimes if I leave this and I apply my cuticle bead, then this is in the way, and that I do not want. Your cuticle bead is very important, especially when it comes down to lifting, so you want to make sure that there's no type of obstruction there, and you just want to make sure that your cuticles nail plate is clean and ready for application. So we already covered the nail prep. Now we're going to come in priming. I'm fanning the nail because I applied alcohol to the nail, pure alcohol. So before you apply the primer like I'm doing now, you want to make sure that the alcohol dry. And when the alcohol dry, you will see, because the nail will have that white dehydrated look. So after I apply my primer, then it's time for us to do the acrylic application. And this I was happy that I did with a fill, because we could focus on the cuticle beads, because since that's where the lifting starts. So with your cuticle bead, you want to apply just away from the cuticle and then gently tap your acrylic towards the cuticle. So you don't want to apply the acrylic exactly on top of the cuticle. You always want to leave that little room for the acrylic to flow. If you pick up your bead and the bead is the perfect consistency, you do not have to struggle with the acrylic. Once you place the acrylic down, it's going to start melting in the cuticle area. All you have to do is guide it. Most of the time, you guys overthink it and then end up giving yourself extra work. You created the problem. So what I want you to do moving forward is stop overthinking your cuticle bead. Place that bead just above the cuticle. Look at that. Then you're going to gently tuck it from the back, and then you're going to flush the acrylic. Also making sure that the acrylic is not all the way on the side walls either. If you look at the video carefully, the acrylic is right where it needs to be. So this is how I want you to start applying your cuticle bead to prevent lifting. Also, like I said before, do not place the bead exactly on the skin. You always want to leave that room to tuck it back. And when you tuck it, you have to give the acrylic like just a gentle tap. It's a tapping motion. And when you apply your cuticle bead as well, you want to let that bead serve its purpose. Do not apply the cuticle bead and then wipe it off. Before you pick up your bead, you need to look at how much acrylic you will need. Are you going to need a small bead, or are you going to need a medium bead, or a large bead? Most of the time it's a small bead. So this is what I do not want you to do. I don't want you to go tucking the acrylic back with the tip of the brush and letting it overflow in the cuticle area. So just practice it this way, placing it just above the cuticle. Gently tuck it from the back. See that? Gently tuck it. Do not overwork it, please. I do a lot of beginner classes and you guys panic when it comes down to the cuticle area, or even acrylic application overall. So I want you guys to just be confident in yourself. Do not try to put on a show for your client. Just hold your composure and take your time. Trust and believe that you know what you're doing. And also another trick is, the slower you go, the faster you move, because you do not make mistakes trying to move fast. This bead right here is the perfect bead. See how that bead looks? That's how I want you to practice picking up your bead. It's not running as soon as you place it down, and it's also not too dry where it's not moving when I tuck it. This bead right here is a dry bead, dry cuticle bead. Even though it's moving, it didn't flow. like the other beads. And this you don't want to use on your cuticle because it didn't adhere to the nail properly. Like the other beads, when you put it down, it melts and it holds on to the nail. So that bead I would say that is too dry. Look at this bead comparing to that bead that I just placed. When I tuck it, it's flowing, it's nice and juicy, it's not running, and it's not dry. So pay attention to your cuticle bead. Don't overwork it, like I said 10 times already, because this is what you guys do a lot. And when you're doing your cuticle bead as well, stop pressing the bead off to the sides, and then you're going to have like a bumpy type of vibe going on your side walls. Keep the acrylic in line with the nail. Keep your acrylic in line. Keep your cuticles clean. Just keep cleaning up. And if the nail is square, you have to keep your square shape going. That way you don't spend a lot of time trying to get your shape back. How are you guys still watching the video and haven't subscribed as yet? Please hit that subscribe button right now. You have to be subscribed, guys. This is the way how you show me support and that you appreciate my content. So subscribe to my channel and like this video. And if you have any comments, leave it in the comment section. Now moving on to the other segment, which is sealing the nail. So sealing the nail is just as important. So if you go ahead and you prep your nail right, your cuticle bead was nice and perfect, you did everything right, but you didn't seal the nail, that's going to also cause lifting. You always want to make sure you seal your acrylic. This sealing will give your nail that natural flow, like from the cuticles and the sidewall. Basically the acrylic should be hugging the nail. You shouldn't have that bumpy side or cuticles. You shouldn't have that look. Your nail should have a flow. Look at the nail like in the video comparing to when I didn't start filing as yet. You want to create that natural look in the back area right there. So keep that area nice and flat. Also, you want to make sure the acrylic is properly dried before you go in filing, especially your cuticle area, because if the acrylic is not fully dry, then what you're doing is you're going to start removing the acrylic from the cuticle area, and then that can also cause lifting. So make sure that the acrylic is dry as well. One more thing, you never want to leave like a hump in the back of the nail. Like you see where the cuticle area is, that exits from the cuticle right there that I'm filing right now. Make that part nice and flat. Make that part nice and flat, because that's going to create a nice aesthetic for the nail. Looks natural, like it's growing out the cuticles. So that's how you're going to create that look. So you got, especially sometimes if you're going to polish over the nail, you definitely want to make sure that part is flat, because then the polish transition will look nice, like it's growing out your client's cuticles. So please make sure that you're getting the back end of the nail nice and flat, and then you could like transition into your apex, which is like the slight raise, and then your free edge. You come back down from the apex raise to the free edge. When you're drilling, especially your cuticle area, you want to make sure that your drill bit is at the right angle. You don't want the bit to be too much upwards, because then you don't want to cut your client's natural nail. So you want to make sure that your drill bit is laying flat, like how it's looking right now. I don't know how to explain that in full details, but basically don't have the bit angled where it can create, like it can cause damage to your client's natural nails. That's what I'm basically saying, because that little gap in between the cuticles and the acrylic right there, remember right there is the natural nail, if you can see. So once you go drilling and then the bit is at an angle, you could cut into your client's natural nail, and that you do not want. Also, when you're drilling, keep the bit moving. That way it doesn't start heating up and then your client's nails start burning. So that's why if you notice that your client keep pulling back, that's probably because you're in one spot for too long. So you always want to keep your drill bit moving. That way you don't burn your clients. And also, this bit that I'm using is a Pana bit, P-A-N-A, that I got on Amazon. You can always go ahead and purchase that. I'll leave the link in the description box below where you could go and get this exact bit that I'm using. But this is what I usually use for this part of my work, the drilling. But this is the bit that I use. I really hate when I know that everybody, they have their own techniques, but as for me, I don't know how people use a standing band and do this part right here. It don't make no sense. I tried it before and I'm like, this is so weird. How do you get the job done? Especially when it comes down to the cuticle area. I feel like first you need to use this bit. It doesn't have to be this one specifically, but you want to make sure that you're using the right bit for this, especially when it comes on to sealing your nail and creating that vibe. Like I said, I'm going to leave this bit in the description box so you can go ahead and purchase it. This is the medium. They also have it in coarse as well. The coarse one I used to do soak offs. So that's what we're working with for right now. I feel like everything looks so good. I'm very confident that we will not have any lifting, and if you follow the same steps as well, I believe that you will eliminate this struggle and you will improve, because listen, money is hard to come by. So for your clients to come and then the nail pops off in 1 week or 2 weeks, they might not come back. So you always want to make sure that your retention game is strong. Even if the nail doesn't look good, once your retention is good, it's a high chance that your client will come back, because they will give you another chance. They'll be like, oh, she didn't do too good with the design, but the retention was good, so I'm gonna go back to her again and give her another try. At least they got something for their money, you know, not just the pretty design because you gave them the pretty design, but they could just look at it for 1 week. It came off, so it wasn't worth it. So just make sure that your retention is good. Pay attention to your nail prep, like I said before, your cuticle bead, and also your sealing. And I'm just showing you guys the behind the scenes of me working. This is just a regular work day at 876. That's Bree. You know, I have like 2 other nail techs working with me. So today was a very busy day. We turned away like 6 clients, plus people were calling in asking about appointments, and we were not able to fit them in. This is the final results. Make sure you guys